Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening. I would like to call this Tuesday, June 24th board meeting to order at 6 o'clock. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay, Deb, if you could please establish quorum.
We have 4 board members available. Mr. Collins will be joining us. He's checked in that he is at a graduation, but he's on his way here. Is everybody's mics on? We are recording and we are on YouTube, and we are all logged into Board Docs.
All right, can I get a motion to set the agenda, please?
I'll move to set the agenda.
Second. Online voting's now available. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Deborah. All right, moving on to our presentations. We have the English Language Development presentation.
Oh, but you have to.
All right, good evening. Can you hear me?
We need to turn it up just a little bit. Can we do that? We want to make sure the recording picks you up.
Okay. And then, okay. So I'm here this evening to talk to you about the English language program. I was hired in August of 2023. So this is the first time I've come before the board to give you a presentation, give you information about the English language development program. We are federally funded through ALPA and Title III Part A. So just to give you a little bit of background, state law and federal law require that we identify potential multilingual students in Cortez. Federal law requires that language development classes that we have language development classes for our multilingual students and that we have a fully monitored program. CDE requires that we have 45 minutes of daily targeted language development classes for each of our students. Both state and federal law require that our language development classes be taught by highly qualified teachers. One of them are here tonight. Colorado specifically states that we have CLDE endorsed teachers. Federal and state law also require annual testing, parent approval. We do parent approval by sending out letters to our parents whenever we qualify the students for the program. And then federal and state law require that our general education teachers provide support and accommodations to our multilingual students in the classroom so that there are no barriers to equal education. So some of the federal laws that we go by, and I'm going to use my notes so that I can see what I'm talking about. But here are a few, there are 5 up here for you to look at. Actually 7. Civil Rights Act is the big one, prohibits discrimination. It ensures that our multilingual students receive a meaningful and equal education. And then the 5 over on the right ensures that we are not sticking our students in SPED classes. That happened in the past, not here in Cortez, but just in past educational circumstances. So in the 70s, we had to enact a civil rights memorandum to rectify that. You can't have a dead-end program, meaning You can't just leave multilingual students in an ELD program forever throughout their educational life. You cannot segregate multilingual students into just an ELD class. They are supposed to get 4 core classes throughout their day along with their ELD class, and they're supposed to also have fair and equal access to all other classes. So that includes PE or art or music programs. You cannot just put them in general ed classes and expect them to sink or swim. So this is where we need to train our teachers in general ed classes to provide supports and strategies to support our multilingual learners. The 3 criteria was established in 1981 to give us curriculum guidance, and this is where we also get highly qualified teachers and monitoring of the students and the program. And then the last one was happening in Texas, where Texas said, okay, we'll do all this, but we're going to charge our students $1,000 tuition. And we had to put a law in place to say, no, our multilingual students get free public education just like all students. So there's the laws. The point and the goal of our program is to ensure that our multilinguals get the same communication and understanding level in the classroom as their English-speaking peers. And when I mean communication, I'm talking about speaking, listening, reading, and writing. That's the type of communication that they need to be understanding in the classroom. And we need to train our general ed teachers to provide this classroom communication using the appropriate strategies and supports to ensure this is happening. And what we know through experience, that these strategies help all students in the classroom, not just our multilingual students. So moving on, how do we identify our multilingual learners? We have a home language survey that we conduct anytime anybody's enrolled in the system. And if they let us know that a language other than English is spoken in the home, that triggers the process. We do student and family interviews, we do teacher interviews, we gather a body of evidence through schoolwork. And once we determine that the student is indeed being influenced through another language at home other than English, then we can conduct what is known as a WIDA screener, where we test the student on the 4 domains of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And that's based on a scale from 1 to 6. 1 being considering entering on an English language proficiency level, and we consider them at the newcomer or non-English speaking proficiency level. This is where they know from 0 to about 1,000 English words. And from there, they'll move into the LEP, or limited English proficiency level, where they know about 3,000 words. And then from there, they move into what we call the FEP level, which is fluent. And at that level, they'll know about 3,000 words, or 6,000 words, and that's where they're able to fully function closer to their English peers or English-speaking peers. It takes from 5 to 7 years to get to that fully proficient level. So we are hoping to move our children through from that NEP to LEP level. It should take from 1 to 2 years in the program. Then from LEP to FEP, it should take another 3 to 4 years to move fully through the program. So who are our Montezuma-Cortez multilingual students? At Lewis, we have 2 that are at the LEP level, so that limited speaking. At Kemper, we have 16, 7 at the NEP level, 9 at the LEP, 3 that are being monitored. Once they get into that FEP level, they're no longer in that 45 minutes of daily targeted lesson learning. They've moved out of that program part and they're just being monitored. And we monitor them for 4 years to make sure that they're doing okay at the academic level. At Mesa, there are 23, 10 at NEP, 13 at LEP, 1 being fully monitored. At the middle school, there are 19, 4 at the newcomer or NEP level, 15 at the LEP, limited English proficiency, and 19 that are being monitored. They're no longer in the daily 45-minute classes, just at the monitoring level. At the high school, we also have 19 in the program, 7 that are NEP, 12 that are limited speakers, and 9 that are being monitored, for a total of 79 students that are in the program. We also have 14 that are at the charter schools that we monitor, for a total of 125 program students. The languages that are being spoken here in Cortez mostly are Spanish, and then the next large group are Navajo, or Dene, and then Ute, Tagalog, Chinese Mandarin, Vietnamese, Japanese, Northern Uzbek, and then 1 German. We've also had French and, Jean, remind me, what was the other, was it an Indian language? Okay, moving on. Okay, so what's happening in these multilingual brains? We have some people in this room that can look at a math problem and just immediately calculus figure it out right away. And those are left brain thinkers. And then we have some people in this room who are artists, and those are right brain thinkers. And then we have people who are musicians, who know how to play instruments. When you're listening to music, you're using the right side of your brain. If you're reading music, you're using the left side of your brain. And they've done MRI studies on people when they're listening to Mozart, and you're using, for some reason, both sides of your brain. So some schools like to play music in the hallways because it prepares children to learn for some reason. There's been studies on this. The same thing is happening with a multilingual brain. You're listening to the words using the right side of your brain, but you're translating the language using the left side of your brain. The language part is on the left side. This is done instantaneously, just like with music, and they've done MRI studies, and it shows that your brain lights up on both sides when you are translanguaging. So, the ability to move fluidly or rapidly between languages is the definition of translanguaging. When you are teaching translanguaging in the classroom, you are allowing the student to use both languages in their, when they're writing, when they're speaking in the classroom. It's a way to allow the student who is just beginning to learn 2 languages a way to communicate better and faster and quicker. So we want to promote this in the classroom and allow the teachers to allow the students to translanguage as a way of communicating their lessons in a way. So if they can only think of a word in their first language, it's okay to allow them to speak that as they're talking in both languages. Does that make sense? They can switch, we've learned that they can switch tasks more efficiently than their English-speaking peers. They can adapt to new situations. They can process information rapidly. They have enhanced problem-solving skills. This power of translanguaging improves memory retention. You can think creatively, you're more agile, you have a more adaptable brain. It shows that you have increased gray matter density in your brain. And if you are one of the lucky ones that can speak multiple languages, they show that it delays age-related cognitive decline like Alzheimer's. So it's not too late to learn a language if you haven't already done this. I recommend Duolingo. I'm trying to learn Spanish right now. I know you are too. So music does the same thing. If you already know an instrument, delay that Alzheimer's in your brain. So a yippee for dual language. Okay, so where we were in August when I was hired. At Kemper and Mesa, we had liaisons. We were paying them a stipend. They were doing a great job, but we had no ELD classes, English Language Development classes. We had no highly qualified CLDE teachers teaching the classes, of course. We did have curriculum. Lexia English was being used during intervention. At Mesa, they had a para teaching the Lexia class during pull-out. So, out of compliance. Middle school, we had a liaison stipend. We did have an ELL class being taught during intervention by a highly qualified teacher. Ms. Jean Bramley's in the room with us. And she was teaching Lexia English, but it was being used more as a study hall at the beginning. And then at the high school, we had a liaison stipend, and we had an ELL study hall that included SPED children. We did have a highly qualified teacher there at the first half of the year. She retired in December, but there was no curriculum. It was straight up study hall. Teachers would send homework. The teacher would help running around to the different students, helping with homework. So the changes we made, I went to Tom, Eddie, and Jim and showed them this, and Tom was very, very supportive and said, let's change this, let's fix this. So at the middle school, we talked to Drew and we switched the class to strictly 45 minutes of targeted language development. Jean Bramley's an expert in this. This is why I'm saying she's highly qualified. We switched to no math. It went straight to language development. We took out any extra SPED students that were being put in this class unless they were dual identified, meaning they were also ELL kids. At the high school, we created a spring semester ELD class, so 45 minutes of targeted language development. We added curriculum to bring us into compliance called Language Tree. We put in a new teacher, although not CLDE qualified. And we said no SPED students unless dual identified. And that was an issue because we figured out about midway through the class that there were some SPED students put in the class. And the problem with that is in order to be in the ELD classes, you have to have parent permission. Parents get given letters in their language that they understand, and they sign it and send it back for their permission for their students to be in this class. So we had SPED students in this class whose parents had no idea they were in there. Okay, then we also had a high school council meeting because we figured out that there was a problem with freshman scheduling. We had freshman ELL students who had 3 core classes. Some were missing social studies, some were missing science. And so Eddie, Tom was aware of this, Jim, Lisa and I met with the principal and the counseling department, and we asked why. Why are they only getting 3 core classes? And the answer was there weren't enough seats. And when I said build another class, they said, well, we're worried they can't handle it as freshmen. So with Tom's support and Eddie's support, we said this cannot happen again. So I'm happy to report that Jean Bramley's 8th graders, who are now freshmen this year, received their 4 core classes, and all of them passed their 4 core classes with flying colors. Your number 1 student in the freshman class is a multilingual learner. Her kiddos are on the AB honor roll. Most of them are above the 50%, meaning 2 of them are ranked 33 and 32 out of 180 something kids. So they're doing great. We also talked during this meeting about there was issues with enrollment and evaluating foreign transcripts. So we let the counselors know how they can evaluate foreign transcripts by giving them information that CDE had sent us. It's actually a booklet from New York and how they evaluate transcripts. We talked about the enrollment process for ELD students and tried to get that straightened out so that there aren't any issues with communication processes and talking to the parents and just putting students in classes without their permission and without parent permission. And then we also talked about the standard diploma not meeting the requirements to get students into a 4-year college. There was, it wasn't correct in the way it was being advertised. It lacked 4 credits for math. The requirements was only 3 credits for math when you actually needed 4. So I was happy to see that that was being addressed at your last meeting by the high school. And then we also, some of the events, we did ELPDs for Kemper and Mesa elementary teachers in Paris to show them strategies in the classroom to help these students. And then last Fozzie's Farm showed internship opportunities to our high school students to help with summer jobs. Now, results, I hope you can see this, but Jean Bramley's class group of multilingual learners outperformed this 2024 year on CMAS. So that's one of the results. Good job. Okay, where we currently are with Tom's help. Kemper now has ELD classes by grade level. And Crystal is in the room, Crystal Livingston. She is one of the teachers that we have at the elementary level. We are teaching 45 minutes of targeted language development. She's a highly qualified CLDE endorsed teacher. She's teaching Lexia English. We've also added, because Lexia now has gone away, we've added Nat Geo, Spark, Our World. That was added in at the end of CMAS testing, so we've just really begun that, and that will be our curriculum for the fall. She's also teaching ELD classes at Lewis. And then at Mesa, we had Gloria Decker. She's also highly qualified, CLDE endorsed, teaching the classes for our kiddos at Mesa. So fully in compliance. Thank you, Tom. At the middle school, we have classes, instead of being one group, we have them broken up by grade level, 6th, 7th, and 8th, 45 minutes of targeted daily language development classes. We had a highly qualified linguistics specialist. He spoke Spanish and Shoshone. Unfortunately, he was a long-term sub and has decided not to come back. He was teaching language tree and Duolingo to our students. He was part-time or half-time at the middle school and then half-time at the high school, where we had the classes broken up by NEP and LEP, so newcomer, non-English proficiency, and then limited English proficiencies, and that really helped the level of students. So the changes we made, we are providing, again, Tom, Eddie, thank you, translation services on demand. So anytime we had parent-teacher conferences or anything to do with our ELL kids and their parents, you can arrange an in-person or Zoom or a phone call in their first language between the teacher, principal, whatever is needed. We have that available. If they're trying to enroll and we need the high school to understand what the parents want their kids to be in class, or understand transcripts, this is available. Formal documents, so we had the high school handbook and athletic books translated into Spanish. So great job on translation services. We also have a person that can come and be in person and do the translation services for us. The English language development website has been fully updated. It went from one paragraph to links for parent rights, laws, the program information, what it takes to be moved through the program. 9 different links. So from one paragraph to everything you need to know about the ELD program. We are partnering with CU Denver for 45 credit hours. Our teachers need this in order to get their relicensure by September 1st. And again, thank you, Tom and Eddie, for allowing us to do this. I'm facilitating this. It's online, and it's free for our teachers. Anyone could sign up for this. We have 16 teachers currently doing this, and it's going to really help us get that CLDE endorsement. So bravo for the district for providing this. It's saving our teachers hundreds and hundreds of dollars. If they had to pay for 45 credit hours through CU Denver, a lot of money. You know, we did the welcoming and better understanding of our Indigenous students back in the fall at the beginning of the school year. That was 5 credit hours. We partnered with CDE on that. I also did a 1.5 credit hour EL professional development for all of our teaching staff. And then I mentioned the Nat Geo Spark that our elementary curriculum is currently doing. We also provided all campus teachers with an online platform called DIFIT, which translates lessons. It also differentiates lessons for your IEP students and your GT students. And then we've updated our home language survey to make it very simple to fill out. And it includes a question to capture any caregiver who might speak a different language. Then we had, we partnered with Colorado State University to come in and present to our high school students to give them information about going to college, the benefits of going to college, and financial aid, and any information about that. And then again, Fozzie's Farm came and talked about internship opportunities for the summer. We also monitor our NEP and LEP students. We do a language development plan. We do a monitoring document for our FEP students, and we share this with our teachers. You can see that we monitor grades, we monitor benchmarks, we have the teachers we do a simple checklist so that they tell us what accommodations they're doing in the classroom. And then any test results are also added. This is also shared with the principals, and it can also be shared with parents. It's an online Google document that's a living document, and it keeps us all on the same page. Access testing is what we do. It's required by state and federal. It's the yearly test that we do, or the annual test that we do in January. Parents receive a copy of this. It comes out usually at the end of April or May, so that parents just receive this and they receive it in their native language. It gives the scores for reading, writing, speaking, and listening, the 4 domains, the language domains. And then at the bottom for the teachers, it shows what the students should be able to do in the classroom. So teachers receive a copy of this as well. Now here is the 2025 access scores kind of in a little snippet for you. So at Kemper Elementary, 16 out of 16 testers improved their scores this year. 3 are moving from NEP, that non-English proficiency, up to LEP, and 2 are moving out of that classroom program into just being monitored. So they're moving through the program. At Mesa, 21 out of 23 improved scores. 8 are moving from that non-English proficiency up to that limited, and 4 are moving out and just going to be monitored. That's what we want to see. At the middle school, 19 out of 19 improved their scores. 1 is moving from NEP to LEP. 3 are right on the bubble. You need a 4 to move out to the monitoring side. They're at 3.5 to 3.6 on their literacy. And then at the high school, 19 out of 19 improved their scores, 2 moved from NEP to LEP, and 6 are moving from LEP to FEP. And I want to tell you this part. 1 has been in the program since 6th grade. 1 had been in the program since 2nd grade, and 3 had been in the program since kindergarten. So remember when I talked to you about this should not be a dead-end program? These students should not have been in this more than 5 to 7 years. This should not have been a dead-end program. 3 had been in it since kindergarten. So where we're going, we need to have high expectations for these kiddos. They have highly intelligent brains. They are some of our brightest students. What I would like to see at the 8th grade level is we do some sort of college and career readiness testing. For example, what they're using in Durango is something called usescience.com, so that we are not just letting them go through high school without any sort of guidance. These are highly intelligent students, and I would like to see us guide them through high school. Our staffing needs, we currently need an ELD specialist for the middle school and high school. We have some directive from the state that we need to be looking at our Native American students more closely, especially the ones that are performing at below grade level. And we need to be talking more about that, and we will be looking at that this year. We're going to be looking at our STAR test, and those that are performing below grade level at the STAR test level. We're going to be talking with teachers, gathering a body of evidence, and that is a large group. And so this program may be expanding because of that. And then we also have some questions from the preschool. Beach Street would like our help at the pre-K level. We have a lot of students there that are multilingual speakers, and she would like at least some training for the staff. I know they do come to some of our training, but they would like some help at their campus level. And then we also need to continue the teacher support. I've already asked Eddie and Tom. WIDA and CDE provide free webinars, workshops, and there was one called Scaffolding Learning Through Language that we were looking at doing, and they were going to come here and provide that for us, so that's something we can think about. And then, of course, we would like to continue to train our staff on our Indigenous students and continue what we started last fall. And then, of course, we'll continue to monitor the program. That's part of the law. Any questions?
What percentage of your students are both ELL and on an IEP, do you think? Just rough.
I think your numbers today is less than a quarter.
25% or so? Okay.
Thank you, Tom, for all your support.
You bet.
That was a pretty in-depth and interesting, that's loud. Yeah, presentation. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, it's about 2 years behind.
Well, no, that's, well, but it's great. Yes, thank you. Do we have any other questions for Ms. Nelson?
Good job. Thanks.
All right. All right, we will move on to our reports. Do we have any celebration reports this time?
I celebrate that we have such great ELD teachers. Holy cow.
Can I introduce Kevin?
Please.
Kevin is here. He's our high school, middle school linguistics specialist, and then Crystal Livingston, and then Jean Bramley. And then, and Gloria's here too. So Gloria is our MESA specialist.
Thank you for being here. Thank you. Okay. Any other celebrations at this point?
Had 4 baseball players, I think, went to All-State. And then I don't know about the celebration part, I wanted to hear a little bit about summer school, how it was. We're going, anybody? And I know the principals aren't here, so I'm not sure if anybody can.
It's going pretty well. I'm there doing social studies, so I'm right in the trenches, as it were. And it hasn't been perfect, but it's been good. And the kids that have made it through the program and that are going to get to move on because of it are definitely going to appreciate it. And I really appreciate the effort I've seen out of them, at least from the middle school side. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade kids have come in every day and put their work in, and it's been really impressive to see.
Nice.
High school, I don't know so much, but I haven't heard anything bad happening, so I guess it was probably pretty okay.
Good, thanks.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
Board, I did attend the state baseball playoffs in Greeley. Our kids are just prime examples of what we want from the school district. They were great. They had the winningest season they've ever had, and they've gotten further in the state playoffs than they've ever gotten. So congratulations to our baseball team and our coaches. Awesome job.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we will move on to our superintendent's report. Mr. Burris.
Good evening, board. First off, I'd like to introduce a couple people. Paulette Porter's here. Paulette is the new principal of Kemper Elementary School, and she's in the process of choosing an assistant principal, I believe, correct? And David Thornton is here in the back. He's the principal of Mesa Elementary School, and we do have an assistant principal, Melissa Carver, who will assist him. We're looking forward to great things with both of those schools. We've moved people around, and we've got a good crew here, I believe, so thank you both for being here. I also want to extend my appreciation to the board for rescheduling this meeting so that I could attend. Today I did have a meeting with, a Zoom meeting with Michael Zerner and a few other people. He's the lawyer who will be doing our HVAC case. He will be filing that lawsuit within the next couple of days. And he just says it's going to be expensive, but we're going to see if Matthews will come to the table before it has to go to trial. Also, today we had a conversation with Dr. Paul Foster from CDE, Lisa Meagle and I, and we talked about the new rules. So when we did the application to withdraw from BOCES, we turned that application in the day before the final rules meeting. So the question was, are we under the new rules or the old rules? So we found out today that we're under the new rules. We have to do a new application, a new letter of intent, and there are additional things that have to be done, and all of these are due now by September 1st. So we're going to be kind of on a rush to get that done. Also, we've been in communications with a group who is looking at doing math training of our math teachers, K-12. I'm excited about that. They have their own curriculum put together. They have their own interim tests, and all of their tests have PSAT and SAT release questions on them. We are also working with Dr. Porter Cottrell on the SOAR program. SOAR, I was stunned at these numbers. He says that at Goddard High School in Roswell, he had over 100,000 parent contacts through the SOAR program. He had 0 fights in a school of 1,200 kids through the year, and he reduced the failure rate almost 50%, from 35% to 20%. So that parent engagement in that SOAR program really works well, and it's really, I look at Dean, it's really a pretty inexpensive program. It has a tutoring component that is AI, and I've tried it out. Will it give me the answer? Just give me the answer, and it won't. It'll tell you how to get it, but it won't give you the answer. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then lastly, board, I have a little statement to read. It's been a year ago that Cynthia Eldridge called me late at night with the intent to record a conversation between she and I. That conversation concerned personnel and student matters, and so was required by law and district policy to remain confidential. Cynthia was leading the conversation, and she did get snippets about these confidential matters, and she later shared those with J.J. Lewis. J.J. used the confidential conversation as the basis to launch a police investigation, which turned out to be a witch hunt. There began the great lie and conspiracy that I have lived the last year. There was never an allegation of misconduct against a teacher because there was no evidence of any actions on her part, nor even any claims that misconduct had occurred. There were only worries of a concerned mom, worries I took much to heart, much like parents worry about their children as they grow up and experience the world. But JJ's statements to the authorities were false and defamatory. We as public officials are subject to condemnation and ridicule. We make decisions that cannot always be fully divulged to the public, and we must stand behind those decisions. Case in point was my decision to release a baseball coach mid-season and the aftermath that has been a constant onslaught of Facebook attacks on me in the district. But when you defame someone out of malice and false and outrageous lies, you cross the line. All of this has been a distraction to the administrative team, the district, and the community. In addition, there has been a financial loss incurred by the district due to the statements that Mr. Lewis has made. Attorney David Illingworth tomorrow will file a defamation lawsuit against Mr. Lewis on behalf of the district and myself. The defamation lawsuit will establish his motive, disprove his absurd allegations, and expose the truth at last. I have been in this arena over 4 decades, and I understand people like JJ, but for him and Cynthia to use a student and a minor for revenge and politics, and to do so by leaking and misrepresenting confidential information involving personnel decisions and student information that was obtained without permission, must be condemned, and there must be accountability. I hope with this lawsuit, people will learn the truth, that truth and justice will be done against those who don't care who they hurt or who they destroy. Not just to me and my reputation, but more than anything, to that of an innocent student and his family.
Thank you, Mr. Burris, for sharing that. Do you have anything else in your report?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, so we will be dealing with that down the road, so we will move on to the Assistant Superintendent's report.
Let me see if I'm supposed to, it's in the
Packet.
packet, but I don't think I'm supposed to do anything with that.
No, if we have any questions that you may
Yeah.
need to answer.
I do with Jim's report.
A couple of things since Eddie's not here, I guess you can
Okay.
share the something.
Okay.
In Eddie's report about the strategic plan was to establish a portal to relay information. Do you know where we're at in that process?
I do not.
Okay.
Madam President, I know that Mr. Parr had sent an email to the board members to gather feedback on the draft, but he didn't receive any responses. So it wasn't put up for approval this time because he really wanted those responses first. So if anyone
So
can
we-
go through and find that email, Mr. Parr would really appreciate it.
Okay, whether we have changes or comment, just make a comment that you've read it and,
Yeah, just general
You agree?
input
Okay.
on the draft.
okay. No other, okay. All right, moving on to Report D, Executive Director of Finance Report. Ms. Brefford.
Good evening, Board. I have uploaded my report and can answer any questions that you may have. I would like to just announce and show gratitude to the band boosters. They have approved a resolution to donate the band trailers to the district, so that'll be included in the consent calendar tonight as the value is over $5,000. But we appreciate that.
All right, Executive Director of Student Academic Services Report.
Mr. Parr wanted me to let the board know that he had the books out for review by the public, and he had no input at all. Nobody looked at them.
The situation with Kiva preschool and stuff, that's off the table now, correct, for this year, is what I understood?
Looks like, sounds like.
There's also an attachment in board docs saying that Lorraine McCormick from
Yeah.
Kiva reported back that she wasn't able to get the answers from the state, so she felt like it wasn't time to do that right now for Kiva. So she's withdrawing that request that she presented to us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yep, perfect. All right. Okay, the Executive Director of Human Resources Report. I don't think we had anything
No
in there.
report in the board report. There is personnel action later on in the agenda.
Okay, Executive Director of the ESS Report, Ms. Meagle.
The
Thank you, Board. I went ahead and submitted a report to you. I have recently picked up some extra duties as a part of my position, so I'm going to give you a real quick rundown of some of the things that we'll be doing. With special education, we have a cooperative agreement with BOCES that we were able to actually hire a special education coordinator, which comes with a long name, which is the deputy assistant, Anyway, so Katie Nelson has accepted that position, so we're excited to bring her on board to do that. And she will be a key player in our special education as well as our RTI and MTSS process, which is the response to intervention and multi-systems of supports, which is looking at students that are struggling in any way and identifying ways in which to help those students. So making that a more consistent program across the district. Then Section 504, that's something that Katie and I will also be working on in the buildings to make sure that we have a strong handbook and a consistent practice across the district. Gifted and talented, Angie Sauk will continue to be the coordinator for that, but it'll give me an opportunity to look into that, and hopefully we can build the gifted and talented program a little bit better, build that up for sure. You heard about Teresa. English language development will fall under my direction as well as Native American services, and I think there's a lot of things that we can do going forward to help that program grow and to add more cultural supports and knowledge within our school district. Right now, counselors also will fall underneath me, and we have some work to do there. Already I have managed threat assessment, that'll stay with me, as well as crisis response. And then additionally, looking at the parent, student, and community engagement and what kind of things we can do as a district with the programs that are underneath me. A lot of those really involve students and a lot of extracurricular things and things that are kind of specific to those students. And it's a very diverse group that has a lot of energy to do some really good things. So I think we have some opportunities to create some bigger projects, and one of them that I'm really interested in is having potentially parent and community service nights or gathering nights, one first semester and one second semester. And those are, I'll give you more information as I build those, but making them a big resource events so families can come in, they can engage in some activities, maybe try some different types of foods, and hopefully have some things to take home with them to enjoy over the holiday break, and then also learn about resources and things over the summer. So big ideas that have a lot of work to be done in the next little bit. Any questions for
Lisa,
me?
did you say quarterly or monthly on those nights?
Semester.
Oh, thank you.
If I said different, I meant semester. Other things will happen in between, but those bigger projects would be semester.
So I know we've had a lot of meetings to do with the gifted and talented, Lisa, so, and I know it says in there a goal is to increase opportunities and depth and complexity of instruction. Any groundwork already working on that? I know I saw that the high school is going to have a knowledge bowl again as one item. What else, or any other?
There's conversation, and I don't know where we're at with that, to be honest with you, but hoping to find a gifted and talented teacher, having the opportunity to do that, at least for our elementary grades. And then looking again at who do we have volunteering, what kind of parent help can we get to help build up some of the other projects that are available to students through Gifted and Talented.
Can we tap into any of the BOCES money for GT that they have?
We already do. We already receive monies through them, but I think there's some other opportunities too that we can be looking into. Any other questions?
No, thank you. Thank you, appreciate it. All right, board reports.
No BOCES meeting this summer.
Okay. None at all during the
It's a
summer?
good thing.
Okay. I don't have anything either, so. All right, we will move on to citizens address the board. 1 hour limit, 3 minutes each. Must turn in a filled out ticket prior to the meeting.
Send those down.
Okay, we will start with Emily Christensen.
Sorry.
Good evening. I'm here to address the action item in your agenda about clear backpacks and water bottles for the middle school and high school. Since this topic hasn't been a discussed item and it's going straight to action items, I don't know what the district's thoughts are behind this purchase. So I just wanted to give my 2 cents on the subject. My first reaction yesterday was, oh no, the students are going to hate this. But then I wanted to know if there was evidence that a clear backpack policy was effective, so I did a little research. Currently, some school districts in Virginia, Texas, Florida, Mississippi, and South Carolina, just to name a few, require students to use clear backpacks. However, this policy isn't new. It predates the Columbine shooting in Littleton. In fact, Columbine High School tried the clear bag policy for a time, but then dropped it. Jacqueline Schildkraut, Associate Professor of Criminal Justice at the State University of New York in Oswego, says it gives the impression that something is being done, which also leads to a false sense of security. Clear backpacks are not a good investment because very few shooters bring their firearms to school in a backpack. This policy is not going to stop determined individuals. Students will feel clear bags are an invasion of their privacy and lose their sense of autonomy. How will you address the issue of sports bags and instrument cases? Students' bags will still need to be searched unless you also provide clear pencil bags and lunch bags, consequently adding to the cost of this security measure. The durability of PVC backpacks is also a concern. They will likely fall apart and quickly become garbage in the already overflowing landfill of single-use plastics. What I do appreciate about this topic being on the board agenda is that the administration is serious about addressing safety concerns, which was evident when you installed metal detectors at the high school. Let's allocate more money to spend on upgrading the inconsistent metal detectors that, according to my daughter, may or may not flag backpacks holding the exact same content depending on the time of day. But let's get back to the question at hand. Do clear backpacks work in preventing school shootings? In the research I have done, there isn't enough data to say either way. I think requiring students to use clear bags will have minimal impact on reducing serious incidents like school shootings. And it fails to address the issue of gun violence, which is a mental health issue. I believe we need to focus on building strong, trusting relationships between staff and students. We need more social workers and counselors available within the schools. Let's reduce the stigma around seeking help. Provide programs that teach coping skills, conflict resolution, and emotional regulation. Funding clear backpacks for students is simply security theatrics. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Nikki Crowley.
Chris is going to give some stuff for his. We're saving time.
Oh,
Here.
thank you.
So,
Perfect.
like I said, while I'm speaking, Chris is going to hand out some worksheets about elective options, and he'll touch on that. I have 3 topics I'm going to speak about today. In all surveys with community and parents, you hear time and again that communication should be a priority. As a parent of the high school's School Accountability Committee, the changes to the graduation requirements, credit devaluation, the school handbook, and the athletic handbook did not come before the SAC. Why were parents and students not involved in this process? Why were decisions being made behind closed doors without input? Because I believe our input was not actually desired because they knew we wouldn't agree with many of the changes. To me, that was evident at the parent and student meeting in May, where 3 board members and district staff attended. I hope the 3 who weren't able to attend because of open meeting laws were able to hear about our frustrations and our complaints. Number 2, when it comes to the devaluation of concurrent enrollments, parents have been told that it's because of GPA inflation. As someone who has sat on multiple scholarship committees for over a decade, we have never questioned why a student took a certain class or if it was for ulterior motives. I feel that this rationale for the change is specifically targeting certain students. Secondly, we've been told it's because of seat time. According to the CDE website, options for gifted and talented include providing a pathway to graduation when they prove career and college readiness rather than just accumulating seat time. CDE also suggests telescoping, which is completing 1 or more years of curriculum in less time, which is exactly what we've been doing with the concurrent enrollment classes for one high school credit. Again, our gifted and talented kids are going to take the brunt of this change. I also want to point out there are kids in summer school who are going to get full high school credit for going to school for 6 weeks. Chris will talk more about the impacts of the credit devaluation and the new honors diploma track. Despite the apparent abundance of options, which there are a lot, limited time effectively narrows them down to just a few viable choices. I reiterate from last month, you don't change graduation requirements mid-year or mid-high school career. Why would you change how those credits are counted mid-high school career? Secondly, I'd also like you to put yourself in the, or thirdly, in the shoes of an 11-year-old girl who has just started her period. Would you want to carry a clear backpack with tampons and feminine products to your 6th grade class? And if we are going to be told, well, they can put them in a makeup bag, at that point, why are we carrying clear backpacks if we can put things in the backpacks that are not clear? Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Toole.
Hi, thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm here to respectfully share my concern regarding the recent change in how credit is awarded for college-level courses taken by the high school students. Right now, students who take rigorous college-level courses like English or U.S. government through accredited institutions like RPCC will receive only partial credit, half credit, even though the content is more advanced than their high school equivalents. Meanwhile, students who take the same class within the high school setting receive full credit. That doesn't seem quite right. It penalizes those who are choosing to push themselves academically and sends them a discouraging message that their extra credit is dismissed. In Montezuma County, concurrent enrollment has been a vital tool in bridging equity gaps and making higher education more accessible to students in rural communities. Limiting the credit they receive diminishes this progress. It also creates confusion and inequity for future transfer students who may come to our district with legitimate college credit, only to find these credits are now valued less than they were in other districts. Let's also address the comment regarding GPA inflation. The concern is valid, but devaluing rigorous college coursework isn't the right solution. Let's be honest about the nature of college courses. These are not easy A's. They are graded on a college scale. They require more independent work, higher level writing, rigorous exams, and serious commitment. If anything, these grades are earned under tougher standards. They are not inflated. Ironically, this new policy may actually discourage students, including my own, from taking harder classes, pushing them toward easier courses simply because they are worth more toward graduating credits. That undermines the very rigor we are trying to preserve. Ultimately, this change disincentivizes students from taking advantage of one of the most effective ways to prepare for college and career success. It discourages academic ambition and adds barriers where we should be clearing paths. Tonight, I respectfully ask the board to revisit this policy. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Okay, Chris Crowley.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to speak today regarding the new honors graduation requirements and the devaluation of concurrent enrollment classes taken by our high school students. In the packet provided to you earlier, you can see the depth and variety of courses offered not only at our high school, but also some PCC, which our students are allowed to take either online or in person. I hope you check the classes that may have been of interest to you. If there is a class such as band or athletic training or art that you may have wanted to take more than 1 year, please check it multiple times. I ask that you do so in order to highlight what I believe to be a flaw in the new system. Under the new graduation requirements, the high school students have 19 required high school credits. With 28 class periods across a student's 4 years of school, this leaves 9 periods with which to explore the depth and variety of options offered through MCHS and concurrent enrollment. Under the new system, as shown in scenario A of your packet, a student taking 3 concurrent enrollment classes each semester would earn 7 high school credits over the course of a year and be limited in the choice of which classes to take based on the need to fulfill high school requirements. Under the old system, as shown in scenario B of your packets, a student taking 3 concurrent enrollment classes each semester would earn 10 high school credits over the course of the year. It also allowed for more optionality in the choices of class that our students take, as shown in the semester 2 difference in classes that I have chosen. I keep hearing that our students need to have a plan and take classes that fit the plan for what they're doing after high school. While I agree that a plan is appropriate and helpful, isn't part of the joy of high school and education in general taking a random class and possibly finding an undiscovered passion, whether it be cooking, music, woodworking, or any of a dozen other options. This past year, 18 students took both band and choir. Should they only have one other elective option over their 4 years? Over the past 2 years, over 75% of our all-state recognized athletes were in a weights class at the school. If a student wants to push themselves in this way in order to excel on the field of competition, should they be limited in the breadth of their other choices? If I would like to go into engineering or ag or psychology and want to take the options beyond the requirements, should I be limited to only 9 other choices? Under the old system, kids that were willing to take the challenge of concurrent enrollment classes were not only rewarded with the possibility of higher GPAs, but also the ability to explore a wider variety of classes. I believe this not only made our students look better on paper, but also more prepared for the world beyond high school. If you circled more than 9 things that looked interesting that our schools offer, I hope that you recognize that the old system is the better way to have a chance at exploring those options, or if not, please let us know why you think our kids and community should sacrifice again that optionality.
Thank you, Mr. MB McAfee.
Good evening, everyone. I was really impressed with the English language development presentation. That's really good work that they've done, and I think that's really excellent. I'm going to talk about transparency. It isn't the first time I've talked about transparency to this board. Chances are it won't be the last. But I would like to ask each of you to pause for a minute and realize how absolutely and utterly ironic it is that you want to require students to carry transparent backpacks. Plainly, you don't trust them. You are asking and requiring that they be transparent to teachers, to each other, to principals, and finally, that their transparency can assure you and the administration and the board that they are not the bad guys, that they can be trusted. Every board meeting that you have here, regardless of how decisions are made, you expect parents, teachers, and the public to trust that the decisions you are making are for the good of the students. After all, the end game is student learning, as we've been told, and I believe you believe it too, over and over again. So I want to talk for a minute about the consent agenda. The consent agenda has a really important part to play in large board meetings with complex matters at hand. The reason I want to talk about it is that if you decide to approve the consent agenda, then everything that's on the consent agenda is not up for discussion. It's a done deal. Tonight, there are 22 issues on the consent agenda. So having a consent agenda, while it is a good tool, I think does not help at all with transparency. So tonight on the consent agenda, there are things like the changes in graduation requirements, the credit devaluation, handbooks, a lot of handbooks, and the employment list, which had some interesting and surprising things on it. So it seems to me that you all, when you have a chance to look at Mr. Burris's agenda that he sends out to you the week before, take a good hard look at the consent agenda, and look to see if there aren't items on there that need to be brought to the board for discussion. So you want students to have backpacks only that are transparent. So the irony of it all is just boggling to me. You want them to have transparent backpacks, but the backpack you bring to the board meeting doesn't always seem to be transparent.
Thank you, Emily. Okay, moving on to the board discussion then. Okay, so I guess we can just start off with the backpack situation that was actually pulled from the consent agenda, so we could have a discussion about that. So we will be having a discussion about that.
Discuss some of it now, or?
We can discuss it now, or we can,
So I was the one that made the request to pull that out, yes. And for some of the exact reasons that I heard tonight. Personally, I feel like the clear backpacks, which I think the comparison of that to transparency was off a lot, but I feel like using that, the clear backpacks, then we're just going to make the process at the doors and stuff more lax to me, because we're depending on something else, and I think we won't look at that very well. I'm totally against it for, I've already brought this up to other board members, that I'm totally against it because of the Privacy Act of our young ladies, yes. I think that's really wrong. So that's why I pulled that out of the agenda, so that we can talk on it separately. And so I think probably from that discussion, you know how I'm feeling on that one. So as far as the, and I did get your email too, Ms. Toole, so I already read that. And I think there's a little bit of confusion on credits as far as the high school credit thing. And unless I'm seeing something totally different than what you're seeing, when you talk about a college credit only given a half a credit, that's a half a college credit. When you're in, like say an English class for a full year, you get 1 credit. Okay? But I'm not seeing, I don't know, I think there's some confusion there on those credits, I think. So from talking tonight and stuff on this, I think it's something that we need to
We could certainly,
get a lot deeper look into on that. So I'm trying to think of how, I'm not sure how else to say that about the confusion on it, but as a past high school teacher, I don't think that there was that scenario on there. So anyway, we need to look deeper into that and see what, just get with, if you're willing to get together sometime, you guys that brought that up tonight, we'd be glad to visit on it and see what we can come up with on that. Okay?
just out of curiosity, have you visited with Dr. Boniface and gone over all of this?
She responded to my email and she sent what she sent the board, kind of explaining the basis of why she did it and trying to make things equal. But like I said, if my child then takes a college level history class, even though it's for a semester, and she gets a half a credit for a high school credit, a child taking a high school history course is going to get a full credit. She still has to take a history class to be the equivalent of a high school student, even though she took a college course.
That should only be a full credit if it's a year-long class.
right.
It's a semester course, but it's worth a full credit. Shouldn't it be? Because it's worth a full credit at college.
And I think this is where some of the confusion, I don't know, I'm not following this, but a full, 1 credit is 1 full year class, whether it's English or whatever it is, or elective class.
At the high school.
Mhm.
If they take it at the PCC, a full credit is only for the semester, because it's condensed. Because
Are you talking the college credit or the high school credit then at that point?
So it's 1 credit at the PCC. They have now just switched it
3 credit
so
hours.
it's only a half a credit at the high school. Historically, it's been 1 credit at the high school.
Okay. And that's, I think, where the confusion is in, because, yeah, that's the way it always was when I was teaching there, too, was it was a half a credit. It's one semester, that's a half a credit. And the high school credits versus the college credits were two different things, so. Anyway, if we could talk deeper on it, but I'm not following all of it on that, so. As far as the amount of extra credits and stuff, too, that Chris brought up, having 9 elective credits, I was trying to think back when we were on the block system, I think we only had 5 elective credits at that time was all we had. And yes, students, I'm sorry, pay the price sometimes. I had students in ag that didn't decide to take ag until, say, their junior year. So they only got through ag 1 and 2, and that was all they could get through because of the choices. And I don't know how else you can have any more than 9. I mean, unless students want to just take extra credits on there, but there's only so many hours in the day, so I don't know. I don't know what else to say on that.
You do it by going with the old system. They could earn 10 credits in 1 year, and then you are able to take more credits the next, more different classes the next year, and more different classes the year beyond that. You could earn, my daughter has 30 and a half high school credits right now going into her senior year. She needs half a credit of English, but she's able to take extra classes and have that different optionality because of the old system. In this new system, it's reversing what that is.
Okay. Let's get everybody together and work on this, see what we can come up with. We can either postpone that out of there or whatever.
Sure.
I think.
Because we're under board discussion, I'll say one other thing. Emily, you brought up good points about the backpack. I'm in a rare group. I was a superintendent in a school district that did have a shooting. The kid that did the shooting brought a shotgun in a backpack. How do you do that? You cut off the barrel and you cut off the stock. It changed 2 kids' lives forever. The young lady will never have kids because of lead poisoning, and the baseball player will never see a baseball again. It changed the community, it changed the school district, it changed how we did things, but ultimately it ruined the rest of the 2014 year. I've got a place in my heart for those kids, and what could we have done differently in the days preceding that would have avoided it. January the 13th, I called off school because of a water break. The kid came to school with the shotgun. January 14th, school was back on. He came in and shot 2 kids in the gymnasium.
Does anybody, is there any other board discussion on not only just our community presenters, but anything else? Okay. All right. Okay, we will be moving on to discussion items B, policy second reading moved to July 15th. Mike is not here. I think that's why we're moving that, correct?
Yes, that was his request. He wanted to be here for that conversation because of the multiple edits.
Okay. All right, so with that being said, we will move on to the action items. Can I get a motion to accept the consent calendar?
I move to accept the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Any discussion or comments on any of those before we move to?
Online voting's now available. Motion passes 3-1.
Action item B, the Montezuma-Cortez School District fiscal year 2025-26 salary schedule for activity revisions. Can I get a motion to approve that?
How much to accept the 25-26 activities salary schedule?
I second. I second. Sorry.
Just helping.
Online voting's now available. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the Montezuma-Cortez School District RE-1's proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget?
I move to accept the Montezuma-Cortez School District RE-1's proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget.
And I'll second.
Any comments? Any of that?
I did have one question on there. I may be reading this wrong, Danielle. I'm not sure. On page 7, it's showing a negative number for Battle Rock for the 25-26 budget. Am I reading that wrong? Is they're going to be out as of July 1, right? Is that correct?
They will be out as of July 1st.
Okay.
Get that page and see. On page 7?
Mm-hmm. They're going to be out as of July 1, right? Is that correct?
You just repeated yourself.
Toward the right side, I
Okay.
think it shows like a 1 point some
Yes.
negative number.
I think you're looking at that end column, which is the difference from the proposed budget to the current year. So this year, we had budgeted a little over $1 million would be going to them. Next year, because they are gone, that will not be occurring. So if you look at the second from the right, that will be the FY 25-26 budget, and there is no money allocated to them.
Okay.
Online voting is now available. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, get a motion for the SIDSIP renewal.
I move that we accept the SIDSIP renewal.
I'll second it.
Did anybody have any questions on any of that?
Yeah, I do.
Yep.
Pretty much everything.
That was a lot.
So I don't know if this, I don't know if who can answer this even or not. It showed in their report that they showed for the year 23-24, they have a net income of 8.2 million. Is that the goal of SIDSIP, is to be a profit for them, I guess, or? I don't know, I'm saying, whoever can answer, I don't know. It just seemed crazy to me that they have that kind of money sitting there, and when that's our basically our pool, I mean, as districts and stuff, so.
I do know they're, just across the state, I believe the SIDSIP prices and insurance in general are rising. So I do believe we'll be going out for an RFP next year. But I can't speak to that specifically. It's been more of an HR project and they haven't had a whole lot of oversight on this specifically. I apologize.
Mr. Rice, I did read today an email from SIDSIP, and they want so much in reserve in case like the elementary building burns down that they can fund that. And that's $30-some million. So I don't know how much their reserve is, but I know that they're concerned about how much reserve they do have.
Yeah, I think
That was the email.
what that dollar amount though was, what it showed on their report was that's a profit for the year.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, I understand them have to have some kind of a reserve, yes, but is that their goal, is to make that kind of money every year off the districts? I don't know.
Yeah.
So that will be going out again for next year though, Daniel, you said? Okay.
Right.
Online voting's now available. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the middle school science programming? Inspire Science.
I'll move to accept the middle school science programming.
I second.
And from what was said earlier, there was very little feedback from anybody, community-wise and
feedback.
stuff.
No feedback.
So,
And it was out over 30 days.
But this is what the teachers want, right?
The teachers did.
Online voting's now available. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the supplemental budget for fiscal year 24-25 for the school nurse workforce retention grant 7354?
I move to accept the supplemental budget for 24-25 school nurse workforce retention grant.
I second.
Online voting's now available.
Okay,
We don't have all the votes in. Mr. Rice, did you receive a vote?
Mm-hmm.
How did you vote, Mr. Rice?
Aye.
Oh, there it went. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, a motion to approve the supplemental budget fiscal year 24-25 for the school nurse workforce retention grant for the Kiva Charter School 7354.
One moment, President Noyes. Something electronic just happened on that last vote.
Yeah, I'm not able to click on it. Oh, there we go.
Okay. Sorry, Board Docs was just catching up.
I move we accept the supplemental budget fiscal year 24-25 school nurse workforce retention grant for Kiva Charter School.
I'll second.
Online voting's now available. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, action item H, for approval for the supplemental budget fiscal year 24-25 charter school MLO allocation.
I move we accept the supplemental budget fiscal year 24-25 charter school MLO allocation.
I second.
Online voting is now available. Motion passes unanimously.
Action item I, the fiscal year 24-25 MLO charter school payout.
Move to accept the 24-25 MLO for charter school payout.
I second. I do have some questions for Danielle. Is this going to make this whole process more streamlined to where we don't have to have supplemental budgets all the time, or?
So the supplemental budgets are just things that have occurred since the final revision in January, so that will happen year after year. However, this process, what I'm proposing is that at the end of each year, we pay out the entire amount of MLO monies due to our charter schools, just to avoid a situation where we're booking receivables between us and the county and the charter schools. It's just cleaner accounting if we can just make sure that we pay them out by June 30th each year. Our numbers have changed even today. We received one more MLO payment. To date, we've received 97% of what we had certified in January. So I'm confident that by this time each year we'll have the majority of the money. Another thing that it prevents is the county is not able to separate out our total program funding and our MLO monies. In this first year, that's completely okay because we have our current taxes and current interest. But in future years, you get into a situation where there's delinquent taxes and penalties and things that could span multiple years. And it's really hard to break out which of those funds are from what year and who they're owed to. I did speak to an accountant, and they had advised that it would even be okay if we collected, all the money comes in together, if we book it to the MLO revenue first, so that that's done and clear at the beginning of the year, and then anything owed would just go to total program funding. So there's different ways we can do it. I'm just trying to streamline the process and make it easier for audit entries.
So what will happen on those delinquent taxes and stuff from year to year then?
So from year to year, what happens is we book a receivable as of June 30th, and then we just clear that out as those come in. So if we can assume that those are all total program funding and not MLO, it's very easy just to put it right into the RE-1 revenue versus split that out amongst charters based upon our best guess of how those should be split out.
Okay.
Online voting is now available. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, action item J, a motion to approve the Southwest Open School Charter renewal.
I'll move to accept the Southwest Open School Charter renewal.
I second.
And question on this one, I like the benchmarks we didn't used to have and stuff in here. But I know we talked about this last renewal time too. What happens, what's the process over the next several years if they're not met? Mr. Burris?
The board has the option to revoke the charter if they're not met. I would, SWOS has been here a long time. They serve a certain population of kids that I support. And very typically, even going back 20 years, they didn't make the same gains that our kids did. They're more life experiential learning. But you do have, because we're the chartering authority, if they're not making the benchmark of expectations or financial expectations, the board can revoke the charter and take the kids back in the school district.
But I'm assuming all those benchmarks are basically negotiable then at that point, then? I mean, between us and them. Say if they meet one, but not all of them or something.
That can
and
be
we work
true.
with them on something. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not just a hard and fast thing, okay.
Right.
Online voting's now available. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, action item K, the San Juan BOCES contracts for 2025-2026.
I'll move to accept the San Juan BOCES contracts for 25-26.
I second.
Online voting is now available. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, action item L, the emergency policy adoption for JBAA, preserving fairness and safety in sports.
I'll move to accept policy JBAA, preserving fairness and safety in sports.
I second.
Any discussion on that one?
Everybody in?
Okay.
Online voting is now available. Motion passes unanimously. Board, I'll remind you, you will see this for first reading in July as we make this a permanent policy.
Thank you. All right, and our last action item M, the safety budget purchase for 2025-26, clear backpacks and water bottles for middle and high school.
I'll move to accept the safety budget purchase for 25-26 for the clear backpacks and water bottles for middle and high school.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion.
I think we already had quite a bit of discussion on this, but I would urge a no vote on this. I just don't feel like this is the answer to what we need. I just think it lacks a lot, and the student privacy, I think, is the huge part of this that I don't want to see this done for. I get some of the things, and I'm glad that you did comment about that we have done a lot of things safety-wise. I still remember years and years ago when Diane Fox was our resource officer, and she always did a training with us and stuff and talked about that safety in the schools is just like in the ocean with sharks. She said the shark won't attack something the first time it comes out. It's got to poke at it and feel where the weakness is before it'll do something. And I always remember that training she did with us, and that's what she said we have to do with safety, is we have to make sure that because there's people out there poking around, and they're going to look for the weaknesses somewhere in a building or something like that. But I really feel like this also is just going to really make people at the door, I don't want to say sloppy, but a little more lax on things, thinking that it's just all fine and dandy because they can see things in there. And as I've demonstrated to Mr. Burris at one time on this, that you can still put things in there that people aren't going to see. So very, very easily. So I wished we didn't live in a world that people thought along those lines, but we do, unfortunately. So, but the privacy thing is really a big thing of mine. I just don't like that. So.
Yeah, and I can see a need for these in certain venues and areas for a certain amount of times, and I'm on the fence because I do the safety part of it because of what, Mr. Burris had talked about, preventative and trying to, what could we have done? But, and we never know what's going to happen at any given day. But I do think that we need to maybe talk about this a little more, revisit it, and just give it a little more thought. And I agree with Ed as well on the privacy and the things like that, thinking, our female students. And I just think at this time that there needs to be more thought put into it, more discussions, and but I also do see the safety side of it. I would hate for tomorrow something to happen, but so I'm just kind of on the fence of both of it. I just want to have more time to weigh the options and look at it a little bit more. This was.
And maybe there's something out there, somebody knows that $25,000 would be better spent safety-wise too. So
yeah,
let us know. I just feel like buying these things and then we're just opening a big door for replacing stuff all the time. I just think there's just a lot of negatives to it.
With the whole, you're going to be bringing in your band instruments, your athletic bags, your different things. I mean, so at what point do we call this safety, but in hindsight, we've still got other bags that aren't safe or that can be hiding some potentially unsafe items. So I think, it's one of those things, you got to be black and white, not just gray. And that's something I've said for years, even on our handbooks. So much of it's just gray and not black and white. And we need to make it absolutely clear. If we're going to go clear backpacks, we need to go clear everything. No briefcases, clear briefcases for teachers, things like that. So, I mean, it can get ridiculous. So I just think we just need more time to talk about it and
I guess if it's going to go clear everything, it's going to be an interesting day up there at the school.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I'm just saying, Yeah.
Okay.
Online voting is now available. Motion fails unanimously.
I would like to have that put back on, as more of a discussion item for our next meeting.
I will make a note in there.
Thank you. All right, anything else that we need to? Okay, I would just like to thank you all for being here, and I will adjourn this meeting at 7:44.